Nikki, welcome to Digital Transformation Bite Size. This is a series where I interview thought leaders and experts in the digital transformation, intelligent automation, and data analytics space. Welcome.
Hi, Kieran. Thanks for having me.
So, Nikki, for those people who do not know who you are, would you mind telling us a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Yes, so I'm Nikki North, and I'm currently an RPA leader at Thames Water. I've been there for about 6 months, and my previous role, I was working for 17 years at the Cooperative Bank, and I started in RPA before it was called RPA. We didn't call it that then because that term hadn't been invented. And I've spent the past 17 years working my way through all the different roles that make up a Centre of Excellence for RPA. I've been helping Blue Prism specifically to shape their methodology, to shape some of the documents that we know, that we know now. So I've really been around that journey of helping RPA to develop and creating some of the things that we know as just basic stuff today.
Nikki, you've seen some big shifts over the last 17 years. What are the things that you can remember most? What's actually happened? Where are those big changes? And where do you see the industry going?
Yeah, so the main changes that I've seen is around the number of different players in the market, the number of different softwares that are available. You've got all these smaller enterprises that are popping up, and then some of the bigger firms are doing all the acquisitions of those. And you've got the likes of Microsoft now, all the big sort of tech companies trying to create their own versions of the stuff that's already out there. So it's really the biggest shift really has been about the number of different services, and everyone just trying to find that next new thing. What's the next innovation? What's the next line that we can cross when it comes to intelligent automation? And I think people are just going to keep pushing that boundary. When we started doing RPA, it was all about looking at things that were logical decisions, things that didn't need judgment. And now you're bringing in artificial intelligence tools that can add that human element and that can do some of that decision making and do some of that judgment. And so it's just, I think that's where the industry's going now, is just to keep pushing and seeing how far we can take it.
That's a bit I like about the competition, this industry. Yeah. It drives it on a little bit.
Right, yeah.
One thing I'm sure has not changed over all those years is that there are good teams and there are great teams. Mm-hmm. What makes a great automation team?
So I think what makes a great automation team, it's the same with what makes any team great, which is definitely got to be teamwork. It's working together, being flexible. You don't just need good developers, you need great developers, you need analysts that understand what it is to be a developer. Really, every single person in that Centre of Excellence, that team, should understand the solution that they're trying to deliver. If you don't understand what it is you're trying to deliver and who you're trying to deliver it for, then whatever you deliver it, whatever you come up with, the solution just isn't going to be fit for purpose and all those sorts of things. And if every single person in that team doesn't understand that and isn't working towards that same goal and doesn't think of the control room or the developers or the testers or the customers, then you're not going to be able to deliver solutions that are lasting or that are going to sort of be able to move with the times and be able to add the new technologies in and all that sort of thing. So the team for me really is all around working together and having that one goal. And like I said, I think that's true for any team, not just in automation.
I asked you what would make a great team, but one of my fascinations is what makes a great automation developer in your esteemed view?
Okay. So for me, I've worked with lots of developers in my time, whether they've been internals, externals, and all those different kinds of developers. And to me, the great developers are the ones who are really considerate of their customer service. And what I mean by that is they think of themselves as someone who's delivering a service, and they think about their customers. And when I say customers, I think there's 3 kinds of customers for a developer. You've got the customer of, who are you creating the automation for? What's the team that the robot's going to work for? So your direct customer, who's written your PDD and is giving you requirements, and who are you creating that automation for? The second type of customer you should be thinking about as a developer is your customers of your business. So who are the end recipients of this automation? What are we really trying to deliver for the customer? It's all well and good looking at a PDD and saying, right, these are the steps that we do to process this transaction, but what service are we trying to provide to them? What's really important to the customer? And then the third type of customer for me, which I think gets forgotten, is your control room. So you can build a process that's absolutely amazing, does all these whizzy fancy things, but if your control room can't understand the logs, can't look into issues if there's anything arises, doesn't understand what the key relates to, you know, all those kind of things that make it easy to manage, then that automation, it's, you know, I've seen it before, I've seen it loads of times where there's been this really fancy and cool way of doing it, but it's had to be ultimately be rebuilt because there's just no way that the control room can answer queries or can support the business with it running. So that's what I think is the difference between good and great.
Am I right in saying you've just started an exciting new role? Where is that, and what's your focus now in your current job? Is it incomes? Is it FT reduction? Is it CX, EX? Or is it all those and then more besides?
Yeah, so obviously anything that you start with intelligent automation, you kind of trying to do everything at once, and there's a lot of pressure from everybody to try and do everything at once. But the main focus for us really is around customer service. It's around backlogs. We've got complaints reduction to do. And when you look at the backlogs, you look at the complaints, and really it all ties back to getting things done first time and getting it right first time. And that's something that means that we're having to try and work very closely. It's not just about automation, it's working with the continuous improvement team to look at, you know, they're the ones identifying the sort of themes of issues. We could go and have a look and say, all right, yeah, we've got this one process and there's all this FTE attributed to it. But actually you could have another process that doesn't have that many FTE needed to do it, but because it's not being done right, or it's being done over a longer period of time or something like that, then if you automated that process, it would actually stop repeat contacts and it would stop complaints. And that's what we help working with the CI teams on, to kind of identify where those kind of root cause problems are. And sometimes it's not a problem that the team manager would see as a problem. It's something that's creating that, like I said, that additional work. Or we've got one process we're looking at the moment where it's working to design and everything's fine and it's accepted. But what they're doing is they're checking something every 30 days. And actually, if we had a robot that could check it every day, because it just had that little bit more capacity, we would be able to improve the customer service and the customer journey massively. So that's something that we're focusing in on, even though it's only got a small FTE saving. Having us do that check every day actually speeds up the end-to-end process by about 60 days.
Oh, wow. I'd like to see more firms focusing on that one. Are you attempting in any way to create a digital culture in the organization, or does that already exist?
Yeah, so the digital culture as a whole already exists, but what we're trying to create is a what I'd like to call like a robot first culture, where if you can engage with the teams and get everyone understanding what it is that your robots do and all the technology that comes with it, then if you can create a culture there where a piece of work comes into a team, the first thing they should be thinking is, can my robot colleagues do this? And the reason I call it robot rather than digital is that digital means something slightly different in where I work. So calling it digital culture kind of creates a bit of a confusion. So yeah, we'll call it robot culture. And you want the colleagues who are doing the work, who are getting new reports to work or having new tasks to do, you want them to be thinking, is this something I add value to, or actually, is this something that my robot colleagues can do for me and my team to make our days a little bit easier, a little bit lighter, or like say, get through some of the work quicker, be able to check things more often and that sort of thing.
So how do you develop that automation culture then? Is it a lot of hard yards talking to people? Are they automatically receptive? Is it road shows? Is there worry they will lose jobs? Where does it fit and sit?
Yeah, so I think it's all of what you've just said. One of the most important things is definitely communication, visibility, and being open and honest. I think I hear it all the time. There was something that someone had put on Facebook the other day, and it was about, I won't use the self-checkout because it takes jobs away. And I'm sure most of us in this industry have heard that argument before, but I think we all know that this kind of technological revolution, it isn't taking jobs away, it's just creating jobs in different places. So it's just about educating the colleagues on the phones, on those teams, doing road shows. And also what sometimes get forgotten is to celebrate what you're already doing and make sure that the colleagues are aware of what the robots have been doing for their team or for other teams. And you can do that by doing blogs. I know a lot of people like to name their robots, and then they can do a little blog to be like, hi, so my name's, whatever we're calling the robots. I know one of the companies have got them named after the royal family. So I'm Charles, and this week I've done X amount of transactions in this area. And those kind of blogs can almost sort of try to humanize the robots and make them part of the teams. And it's just about consistency and having a really strong comms plan that repeats that and makes sure that you get the same message out over and over and over. And if you can have a brand as well within your organization, that's really, really useful.
Looking back over the last 17 years, I'm sure you've learned a great number of lessons. What are the key lessons that you learned that others should heed when they're building and expanding an automation program?
So I think the main thing that I've definitely learned is that it's all about the team. And, there's all the pomp and ceremony that can come with something like RPA, like how cool it is, how trendy it is. People get excited when you say you work in robotics. They're like, oh, that sounds really interesting and exciting. And it is. But what really is going to make a difference is building a really strong team, whether you do it internally or do it with external hires, whether you do something with a contractor, one of your third-party suppliers. However you do it, you need to make sure that you've got a vision for that team and that you build a strong team that you can rely on and that are going to make each other better. And I think one of the other things as well is there's so much focus, because obviously everyone wants a return on investment. And it's not free to set up, an RPA team. We all know there's a cost to things like this. But it's not all about the FTE figures. It's not all about the cost savings. There's loads of different things I've done through the years, that haven't really had a cost saving, but they've reduced a risk. That's one of the best processes I think I was ever involved, is where we actually just by implementing a robot to do something instead of a person, we removed 100% of the risk of that process, and that was in a banking environment. So you can imagine some of the consequences that would have gone with that if there'd been issues with those processes. We've used it for proof of concepts for things before big ITs come in and delivered stuff, and we've focused as well a lot on the customer journey and making sure that something's done right for a customer, something's done quickly, something's done in a specific time frame, rather than just the things that take hundreds of FTEs. So I think that would be sort of a lesson learned for me, is not to focus too heavily on those numbers and to think about your business in the round and how it can be supported by your robotic program.
That is the nice thing about robotics or an automation program. It's not just the FTE headcount reduction. That's a bit of a myth and a mystery. That old 50 robots equals success. Maybe if I had 50 people sitting there not doing a lot every day, I wouldn't exactly be proclaiming that. But it's good to see a balanced scorecard in there of, cost saving and income and risk reduction and whatever else. That really is a great use of automation. Nikki, for those people who want to stay in touch or learn a little bit more about your thinking around automation, how would they find out a little bit more?
So I'm on LinkedIn, Nikki North. And if people want to look me up and connect, that'd be amazing. So yeah, I'd be happy for people to do that.